Today we'll be talking about this gimbal right here from Zhiyun. This is the brand new Zhiyun Cinepeer Crane 4E, and it's a budget version of their very popular Crane 4 gimbal. Hopefully by the end of the video, you're able to make a decision whether this gimbal will be the right one for you. I do want to say that although this video is not sponsored, Zhiyun did send me this gimbal for me to try out, but all the thoughts in this video are my own and they did not get to see this video before you do. So if you did not know already, Zhiyun has recently been releasing a series of camera equipment like video lights and also gimbals in their Cinepeer line, and that's their more budget-friendly version kind of line. At first, when I thought budget, I thought that this kind of camera equipment was going to be made a little bit more on the cheaper side in terms of quality, but to my surprise, all the stuff that I've used that it's in the Cinepeer line has been very, very well built. They do not have all the bells and whistles like their more expensive counterparts, but that is because you're paying a lower price. But in terms of build quality and actual usability of the product, they're actually pretty good. And this Cinepeer Crane 4E is another example of that. So recently I reviewed the Zhiyun Cinepeer Weebill 3E, which is the budget version of the Weebill 3. A smaller gimbal than this one. This one has a similar sort of grayish finish to it. And I think that's sort of what Zhiyun is going for in terms of the branding of the Cinepeer line with that gray look. This looks almost exactly like the Crane 4. The Weebill 3E is already a very capable gimbal, but with the Crane 4E, you're able to mount even heavier setups. For me, I like to go the more compact route, so my preferred setup is usually a small mirrorless camera with a small lens. But if you are carrying a bigger camera, maybe like a small compact cinema camera with a zoom lens, this will be great for that. You're able to mount a cinema camera like the FX30 or an FX3 with a 2470 lens, or a Canon R5C, for example, with a 2470 lens as well. For a full list of what camera and lens combinations are supported with this, you might want to check out Zhiyun's website. This gimbal feels very, very stable, and I've been using a lot the Weebill 3, the Weebill 3S and the Cinepeer Weebill 3E. I have to say that the Crane 4E feels a little bit more stable than those gimbals. It might have to do with the fact that it's a bigger gimbal and that it has a greater capacity for weight and as well bigger motors. Before we continue, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It'll be great to have you back here on the channel again. And if you're subscribed and you came back, thank you again so much for being here. So this is pretty much exactly like the Crane 4E, with a few minor differences. It is the exact same dimension, but a little bit lighter in weight. So 1.67 kilograms on the Crane 4 versus 1.63 kilograms on the Cinepeer Crane 4E. It has the exact same battery runtime as the Crane 4 at 12 hours, which is plenty in my opinion, so you won't have to worry about this running out of battery and a full day shoot. The other minor difference is that this, unlike the Crane 4, does not have a built-in 10-watt light, which normally goes here. So there's no light here, but again, this is cheaper, so they had to take some things out. The Crane 4E only comes in one package, just a standard standalone gimbal, similar to the Cinepeer Weebill 3E when that one came out. So the price of the Cinepeer Crane 4E is $499 US. That's about $100 to $150 cheaper than the standard version of the Crane 4. And because it's Black Friday weekend, Zhiyun's running a promotion for an extra 15% off, so you're able to get the Cinepeer Crane 4E for $424 US, which is a great bargain for a gimbal of this size. The one thing I want to mention though is that I really like that wrist rest from Zhiyun gimbals. So if you were to get one of these, I would highly recommend getting a wrist rest and also that extra sling grip. It makes a huge difference when you're shooting, especially for long periods of time. Unfortunately, you have to get that separately, but if I were you, I would get that. As soon as I got this gimbal, I also adjusted the settings to make it more smooth. If you haven't watched the video, I recently created a video on Zhiyun settings for not Zhiyun settings, but settings for Zhiyun gimbals to make your footage look a lot smoother when you're filming using one of these gimbals. If you have not checked that already, you can find the video here in the description below or in the channel. So you get a long plate, a Manfrotto long plate. You get this. You get an Arca Swiss style sort of plate, and you get a quick release plate right here. And this goes directly over the long plate, like so. And then once you have your camera here, you're able to quickly swap it between the gimbal and get it off the gimbal like that. This part here is the battery. This is where you charge your gimbal. There's a thread here to attach accessories as well as here. This does not come with the sling grip, unfortunately, but it is in the budget side. There's a button, record button here, mode button here, and a dial, trigger button. This one is not the light, unlike the Zhiyun Weebill 3, as well as the Crane, the previous versions. This one is to control camera settings that you have mapped to your camera, for example, aperture or ISO, or even focus controls. This gimbal has a few locking mechanisms. This one right here unlocks and locks the panning. Right here on this side, this unlocks this arm. And then the third lock is all the way up here, and this unlocks this. We'll unlock it here, and we'll unlock this other one here. Where is it? It's all the way in front here. So if you're facing that way, just keep that in mind. So one minor thing too here is that the screws that they give you, they fall off really easily. So they're not like the thicker versions of it. As you can see, falls off. So I wouldn't rely on this to do that. And if you want to only use this plate and use the other thicker screw that they give you, this one will stay here without falling off. But if you wanted to use this directly on your camera, you're not going to be able to, because it's going to be a little bit bigger than the regular 1/4-20 thread. What I think is that this is meant to be more of your base plate, and then you mount sort of your other supporting plate on top, whether it be this one that Zhiyun provides, or maybe the Arca Swiss one right here. So you have to make sure that you follow the arrows here, and this little unlocking thing faces you. Okay, and then we do this to lock it. We'll power on the gimbal. The menu system is improved over the Weebill 3 and also the Cinepeer Weebill 3E. So it looks a little bit more like the DJI gimbal in terms of its menu, which I like because it's a little bit more intuitive and more straightforward. There's this part of the menu button that's the balance, and it helps you detect the balance of the camera, and you can tap and then it'll go and do its thing to try to make sure that the balance is correct. We have now all the settings in one over here as well. You can turn this into vertical mode, and what I like about this is that they make it a little bit easier to do it. So to do that, we'll take off this plate over here. So we'll adjust this, unlock this lever right there, and then we'll slide this camera out this way. I'll press this little button over there to take it out of place. And now what we'll do is this same plate that we just took out with the camera, we'll go and mount it this way. But before you do that, you want to take off the horizontal plate here because we won't be using it. So let's do that. To lock it again, you use this same one to lock that camera. And now you can do your adjustments and your balancing. The con with this is just like any other gimbal out there right now, except phone gimbals, is that you have to rebalance your camera whenever you switch from horizontal to vertical mode. Let's go ahead and balance this now. And now we have your portrait mode. This is the Weebill 3S, and this is the Cinepeer Crane 4E. You can see the size difference. This one's a lot smaller, this one a little bigger. The Weebill 3S has this wrist rest and this sling grip, because this one, the Crane 4E, the Cinepeer Crane 4E, is a little bit more on the budget friendly side. It's a little bit more bare bones, but they do have this here, and I think you can buy those attachments separately if you need it. That wrist rest and that extra sling grip here on the side. So the only minor inconvenience that I have with this gimbal, otherwise I'm very happy with it, is that the quick release plate right here that attaches to the Manfrotto long plate is not compatible with the Arcoa Swiss receiver plate. So I can't go directly from this plate and let's say the camera's here and put this on an Arca Swiss tripod, for example. The workaround with that is using that Arca Swiss plate that Zhiyun provides and screwing that on top of this long plate. But as you can see, if I were to do this, then I lose that quick release system that they have provided here. And I'm not able to go as quickly from Arca Swiss this to Arca Swiss tripod. However, if you use a Manfrotto tripod with these long plates, then that changes everything, because you can just keep this on at all times on your camera. And if you're switching from this gimbal to a tripod, you would just take off this entire long plate and put this plate on your Manfrotto long plate tripod. So depending on the system that you use, this might or might not be an inconvenience to you. But I hope that they do, in a future iteration, this can be addressed and a more seamless experience can be had regardless of the plate system that you use. If you have solutions to this, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear about that. Should you buy this gimbal? I think that if you are coming from a small gimbal and have a bigger camera and lens combo that's a little bit heavy for that smaller gimbal, this would be the great starter gimbal or starter bigger sibling gimbal for you to handle that larger weight capacity. Are currently using a smaller gimbal like the Weebill 3, for example, and are happy with that weight, for example, like me, who uses a mirrorless camera and a lighter lens, then you may not find a need to upgrade to this gimbal. So if you wanted a budget starter gimbal that can hold larger cameras, a bigger gimbal, or just look for the future when you get something bigger, then this Zhiyun Cinepeer 4E will be a great option for you. And if you do not mind not having that fill light that the Crane 4 has, then the 4E would be a great pickup. So anyways, that's it for today's video. And here are a couple more videos you could watch next, and I'll see you there.